welcome to this episode of Majority 6440, our first episode that is actually filmed on 6440.
Woo!
Let's get real excited about that.
Yeah.
It is the most popular highway in St. Louis, but for some reason we're just never on it. So now we are. We're also about to go to another St. Louis classic, Forest Park, to watch some free theater.
Yes.
And so my question for all of us today is, what is your favorite spot in Forest Park?
I'm Katie, and my favorite spot in Forest Park is the zoo. Even though I'm not a big fan of zoos usually, I think it's really cool that St. Louis has actually the best free zoo in the entire country, and I'm very proud of that.
Hi everyone, my name's Claire, and my favorite part about Forest Park is Art Hill, aka the giant hill in front of the art museum. Definitely the best place to go sledding in the wintertime.
Hi, my name is Margie. I'm Sophie's sister. My favorite place in Forest Park is the Science Center because I'm a huge science nerd, and when I see it when I'm running my once a year cross country race, it's like a rave.
Alright, and I'm Sophie, and to piggyback off Claire's answer, my favorite spot in Forest Park is Shakespeare's Glen, because I'm sure if you haven't picked up by now, I'm a huge theater nerd. I think St. Louis does one of the best Shakespeare in the Parks I've ever seen, and I love being in there when they're doing the show and looking up and you have the whole sky and nature's all around you. So, speaking of Forest Park, which has no basketball hoops, for a reason we will get into later on in this episode, we're going to talk about sports today. St. Louis is a massive sports city. The Blues just won the Stanley Cup.
Woo!
Let's go, play Gloria.
2 months ago, but
Wait, Blues! We love Brett Hall. And we have the Cardinals, who are making a really good run. They crushed the Cubs 8-0 yesterday, thank God. But we're always looking to expand our sports repertoire, and so today's debate is going to be, should we have another sports team? Should we have a sports team that's a soccer team? Should it be a basketball team? What do we think? Where would it go? What are your plans for that? How would it tie into public transportation? So let's dive right in.
Claire, would you like to start?
Sure. So I definitely think we need another sports team. Whether that be basketball or soccer would really depend on research and polls of St. Louis County and city residents, seeing what they want to see. I know that the soccer stadium didn't pass, but I think we can definitely try again. But I think that if we were to get a soccer team from the MLS, so Major League Soccer, I'd want to see Ambush, which is our professional indoor team, and what's the other one? St. Louis FC, no longer in existence, because I don't think that, at least the 3 Ambush games that I've been to, were not crowded at all, and the stadium was completely empty, so I don't think that they have as big as a fan base as we could get a soccer team that has a stadium, which is downtown. Because I know the Ambush plays all the way out in St. Charles, and St. Louis FC, I'm not sure it's anywhere even around here. So yeah, I definitely think a major part of getting a soccer team would be to get rid of those 2 teams. And then I'd also be down to get a women's soccer team, because the USA women's national team just won the World Cup, and the men's team lost to Mexico on the same day. So women's soccer is definitely on the rise, and it would be cool to have a women's soccer team here.
Yeah, I agree. I want soccer, specifically women as well. But I think if we are going to get a soccer stadium, because we're going to talk about this in another episode, but the idea of why the city didn't want the soccer stadium was because it wouldn't be fair, because the county would be the ones using it, but the city would be the ones paying for it, and it's not exactly fair. So if we have the soccer stadium, it either should be in the county, or we should make it more fair, the cost of it, the county and the city.
Yeah, so St. Louis has a complicated history of being a 3-sports team. We lost the Rams.
We don't talk about that.
We do not talk about that unless it is to put a Rams blanket on the ground so that the Blues can drive over it on their victory parade, which was the thing that happened. My only argument, I say 4-sports team. I think we can handle it. I think we can do soccer and basketball as long as our teams are flashy, have a little bit of an edge, then people will show up to see them. There's not a lot to do there's a lot to do in downtown St. Louis, but there's not a lot that people from the county do in downtown St. Louis. So if you had, 4 sports going on, you would have a lot more tourist attractions, you would have a lot more people downtown, and I think that would really build the economy.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm not saying add a basketball team and a soccer team at the same time.
It's
Right.
a little expensive.
Yeah, right now, Major League Soccer and the Women's Soccer League is looking to expand. So I think we put a bid in for an expansion team. We make the county and the city pay for it. And then a little while down the line, when the NBA is also looking to expand, we grab an expansion team from them, and there we go. 4-sport city, let's go.
Yeah. And St. Louis, whenever we're thinking about anything with St. Louis, especially because we love it so much, we have to remember a lot of people are leaving this city, but if we get soccer team, if we get a basketball team, maybe people would be like more willing to stay here or come back here and become more culturally St. Louis and have more pride in the city.
Because after the Blues won, like, you could see like videos or pictures of the Blues parade. Like, the entire city came together and really rallied behind our team because we were so proud to have something that was so good. So if we had another team that was that good or that we could actually put ourselves behind, it would really bring our city together.
Yeah, I agree.
And I know I've brought this up before, but I definitely believe that bringing another sports team to St. Louis City especially would increase the use of public transportation, because I know that me personally, the only times that I can remember ever riding the Metrolink was to go to a baseball game downtown, and in those instances in which I was on the Metrolink, a lot of Cardinals fans were also using the Metrolink at the same time. So I've definitely seen that sports and public transportation kind of coincide a little bit. So I could definitely believe it if we were to bring another sports team to the city, that would definitely help increase the use of public transportation, and an increased use in it would automatically bring an increase in the safety levels of using public transport. And when public transport is safer, more people use it. If more people use public transport, it's better for the environment.
And it's good for the economy as well if more people start using public transport, because that money, instead of going into cars, like just driving, it'll actually be going to city funds with public transportation.
So one of the arguments, both for a basketball team or for a soccer team, is that which one is going to unify the city more. So, we never actually got to the basketball hoops thing. There's no basketball hoops in Forest Park because racism. The city didn't want black people playing basketball in the park, and so there are no basketball hoops there. So a large portion of the city is black, a large portion of the county is white. The cost of playing basketball and soccer is relatively the same, although travel soccer is rapidly increasing in price. So it's all about who has access to these sports. And so I think the argument can be made that people have equal access to soccer and basketball, but which one do you guys think would more impact the city, especially the disadvantaged minority communities?
Me personally, I think for city residents, a basketball team would be better. But I'm also a county resident who loves to go into the city. So I think if we want more county residents going into the city territory, then a soccer team would be better. But when it comes to my personal interest, I think we'd be able to build a bigger soccer culture faster than basketball culture. But I know that basketball games, NBA games are very fun to go to. So are MLS games. So yeah.
I feel like soccer, since it's on such like a big rise ever since the women won the World Cup.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
I feel like that would be maybe a better choice right now if it happens soon. I don't know if later down the road that might change, but and you said something about maybe people in the county would want to go into the city more if it was a soccer game, and I think that's interesting because if they did, that might help to make public transportation from the county into the city more of a thing, which would help maybe unite the two better and allow people with different backgrounds to be able to move into the county and have links to the city without needing a car.
Yeah.
So the other thing is we talk a lot about how an increased people using the public transportation would make it safer, but we also need to think about how much if these games are played at night, how much are you telling me to speak louder?
Sorry.
It's okay. How much that increased presence downtown would make our downtown area safer. There'd be more people down there for longer periods of time. It wouldn't just be a one-night thing or a three-night thing if the Cardinals are in town. But we would have a sustained sports presence that's going to keep people going to the bars after the game or restaurants, or, ice cream shops with their
Yeah.
families, which is going to increase the downtown presence, which is one of the best ways to make a place safer without having to increase police, which I know is something that St. Louis, with all of its history of racial profiling and racist police, we don't want to increase police use. We want other ways and alternative ways to keep the city safer, and I think sports might be one of the best ways to do that.
That's actually really true. I didn't really think about it that way. Like, I definitely was like, oh, with more sports, there'll be more people. But in my mind, I was like, that could be just more. Like, people wouldn't want to go because it's unsafe. But people will probably risk it for a sports game, especially here in St. Louis. So, I agree.
Sports fans are crazy.
Listen,
Yeah.
if Cubs fans can walk all over the city without the fear of God, then I think we can make it downtown for a soccer game.
Yeah, I'm shocked. Anyway.
I also think that because St. Louis is, in my opinion, one of the best cities in the United States, and because a lot of the other best cities in the United States have a sports team in all categories, MLS, MLB, NBA, NFL, and sometimes they even have more than one. Like, Chicago has more than one baseball team, New York has more than one, like, football team. I think that St. Louis could definitely handle being able to knock out all the major sports divisions.
And so far it seems like we're doing pretty well in 2 of them. So.
Yeah, and also, like, if we consolidate the city and the county, isn't it something like we would be the 7th largest city? So if we're going to be 7th, we might as well start acting like it and get some more sports teams in here.
Also, the Rams got good
You don't
when
say
they
that.
left, but the majority of the team was the same, minus the coaching staff when they were in St. Louis. So it's not like we had a bad team.
We just had that coach.
We had a bad general manager, Stan Kroenke.
Right.
Like, you suck.
Just name drop.
Guys, my favorite part of St. Louis is how petty we are when it comes to our
Exactly.
sports teams. Really, what he did was the city and the county offered to increase our taxes to pay for a new stadium so that he could have his cushy whatever and make more money and make profits. And he was like, guess what? I'm going to LA. Bruh. Okay, so let's talk about another big game that was happening. We had Kamala versus Biden, round 2. Was this the knockout round? Apparently not. Biden's still number 1 in the polls. But let's talk about kind of how we did Buttigieg and Beto. Let's talk about policies that we think are interesting on both sides, things they need to address. RBG is in front of us. I do like that. And where we stand on both of those candidates.
Let us really first address the car in front of us has a license plate that says RBG, not Ruth Bader Ginsburg is actually in front of us right now. Let's just clarify that. But we talk about this during our debate episode, but Biden and Kamala both of them similarly need to address the skeletons that are in their closet. Like, I think Biden is probably going to be one of the, head people, if not the main guy that is going to be the Democratic ticket. But if he wants to win over most people in the Democratic Party from voting against him, with voting for Bernie Sanders or voting for Elizabeth Warren instead of him by writing those people in, they need to be like, okay, here's what I did wrong. Here's how I'm going to fix what I did wrong. And same with Kamala. I don't think she has as much of a chance as Biden, so it's kind of less important. But just from a sense of morals, she needs to do that as well. And during the debate when she was like, I'm actually proud of my role as Attorney General, you shouldn't be, Kamala. You should definitely not be proud of that. So,
so I think just in terms of debate and basing it off of debate 1 and debate 2, Joe Biden is not as good at debating as Kamala is. When they go head-to-head against each other, I think Kamala definitely wins that. But clearly what we saw in round 2 is that Biden needed the help of Gabbard, Bennett, whoever else called out Kamala to, help kind of him beat her in that aspect, but he didn't really do much in that. Like, Tulsi came out and flamed her. So
it was so good.
The ability to debate, I definitely think Kamala has that one down packed versus Joe Biden. But when it comes to likability, Joe Biden's way more likable candidate. I recently watched a video that Tulsi actually cited of Kamala laughing at locking up parents in regards to truancy cases, and she told the story of how she sent out a letter to all the parents in the school district telling them what would happen if their kids didn't start going to school. And she said that one of her friends like emailed her or texted her back and said, my wife is like so scared now, and came and told all the kids, you're going to school or else you're gonna end up in prison, and so am I. And Kamala told this story to whatever crowd she was in front of, and it was recorded, and she started laughing, and she said that was the reaction that I was looking for with this sending out of the letters to all the parents. And it was kind of like just an evil
That's like
smirk.
military. That's like a military coup. Like, what the heck is that?
And like, I get it, because education is very important and we want parents to be able to send their kids to school, but we also have to think, what are the reasons that kids aren't able to go to school? Like, there's other reasons, such as, staying home and taking care of their younger siblings while their parents are at work. They might have to work themselves. Like, there's other reasons than simply just being negligent to send your child to school. So I don't think that it's a laughing manner, especially when you're telling stories of how people reacted to a letter sent out to them, warning them to send their kids.
That's disgusting. That is so disgusting.
So to be basic, again, let's talk about immigration policies of Kamala and Biden. Biden has a paragraph. I don't really know what the paragraph says. I read it. It did not give me any substance. Kamala has both a plan for immigration as a whole and a plan for Dreamers DACA recipients. She wants to extend that to parents, which I think is great. Obviously, we need to fix DACA. We need to make sure that they get their status renewed, that they don't get fined for not being legal the whole time, because that's something the Trump administration is using, is because he hasn't extended DACA. If you're a DACA recipient, all of a sudden you haven't been legal in the United States for the whole time because your status was denied for a brief moment, so now they can't apply for other immigration benefits. So I like that plan. I like her immigration plan. There's not a lot of substance. It's definitely more pathos, so she's more sympathetic towards it, and she uses a lot of language, which I think is what Kamala does best.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I would love to see more substance from her. I would love to see what she's going to do for immigrants after they get to the United States. I would love to see how she's going to actually streamline. But in terms of immigration, Kamala wins hands down. So that's my 2 cents on that. But I also don't like Joe Biden. Full disclosure.
Yeah. And on the topic of immigration, I would like to point out that under Obama, immigration was not as good as people want to make it seem. And when de Blasio called out Biden for all these like sketchy and bad things that happened under Obama and asked Biden how he handled it, Biden wouldn't answer the question. He was given like 3 to 4 different times to answer the stupid question, and he wouldn't answer the question. So clearly, like, to go back to what we said before, Biden, you need to address this. Biden, you need to fix this.
But just from reading some basic articles about both of their stances on environmental policy, I would say, I'm sorry, so please don't kick me out of the house, that Biden has a stronger standpoint, has more fleshed out views about environmental policy. He fully endorsed, I think, the Green New Deal, which is a big deal. And he has like much more framework than
Kamala.
Yeah.
Kamala has not signed on to like banning fracking. So that's a big one.
Yeah.
Well, she has spoken out and said that she doesn't like support it. She hasn't really given any like concrete theory.
I think it would be interesting to find out, because these are 2 pretty big candidates, how much money these 2 are getting from different fossil fuel.
Both of them signed the no fossil fuel pledge.
They did? Oh, good for them, actually.
Biden was a little hesitant.
Biden signed it
Big shocker.
June 27th.
Yeah.
Wow, that was actually not that long ago.
No, it was not.
But I know Beto did it in
Retroactive
March.
or no?
We love Beto.
Is that
Yeah,
a
so you-
retroactive thing?
Well, you return your money once you sign it, if you receive any. The other thing I want to talk about, though, to be Republican, is, well, I guess it's not Republican because it's unions, but it just sounds like a Republican talking point at this
Oh
point
my
in time.
gosh, no, we cannot start using
We're not
Republican
using that
talking
term.
point.
I'm just
That
saying,
literally became the coin phrase of
I just
night
mean
two.
Because
that,
they heard it and they're like, this is such a good
Biden-
phrase.
Republican talking point.
but Biden is better about unions, he's better about blue-collar workers. Biden is probably, right now, our best shot to win rural voters. Do I like it? No. Is it true? Yes. Because Biden has a long history of supporting unions, and really what we need, especially in the Midwest where almost every state has passed right to work except for Missouri, very proud of that, we need people who support unions, we need people who support these blue-collar workers, and Joe Biden is one of the only candidates on that stage that has a long record of supporting all unions. It's why he's endorsed by the firefighter union, which is going to be very difficult for other candidates to overcome, and I think that's one of the reasons Joe Biden is expected just to be the nominee, because he has this background in labor that everybody on that stage needs, but only he has.
Not to mention his like high position with the Democratic Party and how super delegates work. Obviously, I think Biden seems to unfortunately be the clear head here in the debate involving everyone. So if we were forced to have Biden as president, who do you think he would pick as VP, and who would you want him to pick as VP?
Okay, she's trying to get me in trouble because I said, can we have an episode without mentioning Beto, and now I'm going to have to mention Beto, so that's unfair. I think you should pick Beto because then you have the New England, Delaware Biden, and then you've got Texas with Beto, and oh wow, look at that! We are now having almost the same JFK LBJ ticket. That's who I think he should choose.
Who do you guys think he should choose?
In an ideal world, I would love for him to pick Barack Obama. I actually just did a little research that even though if there's a president who termed out, if they get elected they get chosen vice president, not elected, the Constitution, the only rule in the Constitution says that they cannot get elected to be president. So if Joe Biden was to die of some unknown reason, of natural causes, because the man's old, come on, and Barack Obama were to become president, there's nothing in the Constitution that he would technically be breaking because of this specific wording that says cannot be elected president again once they turned out. But who I think Biden will pick is Booker, because Booker is Barack Obama 2.0.
Oh,
and
that would be a good ticket.
Right, and with as much as Biden quotes being friends with Barack Obama and working under Barack Obama, and as much as he uses that to his advantage, and as much as it works with black voters, simply because Barack Obama was black, I could 100% see that.
You're so right, Claire. And also, I wouldn't feel... I would be upset about voting it, but I wouldn't be as upset as probably other options for voting a Biden-Booker ticket.
So, that concludes our most serious news of the day. But we do have some advice if you're in St. Louis and you're trying to go to the Muni. And I'm in the middle of Art Hill, so if somebody wants to take this, the driving is a little difficult.
I can take it. So, if you're trying to go to the Muni, be aware that there are free seats in the back of the Muni. I think close to 1,000.
1,100.
1,100. So there's 1,100 free seats every night for the Muni, but the thing is Muni shows start at 8, and depending on what show it is, like if it was Annie or Meet Me in St. Louis or really big popular shows, those free seats the good free seats, which are towards the center instead of like way back on the sides, fill up very quick. So I know that Sophie and I tend to get to the Muni, let's say like an hour and a half to 2 hours before the showtime, so like 6 or 6:30.
You're in Forest Park.
Right, and so we get there early. It's fun to bring a picnic. They have a sidewalk where you can sit, wait in line. There's a lot of other diehard theater fans there who don't want to pay for tickets. And it's a great time. Yeah, so I would definitely recommend getting there early, especially if it's a very popular show. And if you want seats that are towards, center stage more than on the sides, get there early.
So tonight we're seeing Paint Your Wagon, so we will let you know next video if it's any good. We have no idea what this is about. But thanks for tuning in to Majority 6440.
Yeah.
And I hope you enjoyed us actually being on 6440.
Yeah.
Bye.
Meet me in St. Louis, Louis.